How did I get into porn? I got into porn, oh God, how did I get into porn?
Well, I got into porn by just plugging in the cable of the camera to my TV.
Looked up adult agencies on the internet and just called.
I got into porn because it was just such a random spark of the moment decision. I graduated college and I got a corporate job like, a typical Asian girls would. And I realized I didn't like this job at all. And one day I met an executive in the porn industry and he just said, have I thought you doing porn? I'm like, hey, that's a good idea. Let's do something completely different from what my family wants me to do. Let's just shock them. So I said, yeah, let's just do it. Because before porn, I was a swinger and I loved the idea of being watched. And I said, why not? Let's try it. The executive put me in his magazine and the agent contacted me. And I think let's just take off from there. It was pretty quick. I quit my corporate job after I didn't even give me 2 weeks notice. I just quit my bye. I gotta go fuck all this cock. Fuck your paperwork.
I've been sexual my entire life. I had one of my friends say, you should do porn. And I'm thinking about it. I was like, because I was a nanny at the time. Packed up my car and drove all the way to Florida, and that's actually how I started.
I got into porn about 1.5 years ago with my boyfriend of 7 years. We both shot our first porn video in Toronto for a company, and it was actually really fun. We were about to turn around, so if I turned around, I probably wouldn't be here right now. So I'm actually really glad that we ended up going through with it, and now we're here in California.
Girl lives in an expensive city, girl goes to art school, girl needs money. Deadbeat boyfriend who didn't really pay any bills anymore. One day I saw an ad for the girl shoot, and I was like, hey, guy that I live with who's not paying rent, would this bother you? And it didn't. And so I did it.
How I got into porn was I was watching porn and it occurred to me that's their job. They're making money and having fun and I want to do that. So I cold called another porn star whose number I got through, slightly crooked methods. And she told me how to get an agent, and I did, and here I am.
I was on Instagram. I had a few different companies all kind of messaging me at the same time, which was the most random thing about doing porn. But the one I actually responded was the sketchiest one out of all of them. And it was this random dude who is clearly a fake profile, and he messaged me and was like, hey, do you want to make $25,000 a month modeling? And for some reason I replied, and for some reason I talked to them and it worked, and they flew me to LA and I ended up doing porn.
I met a girl at a rooftop party, at a pool party, and I didn't know it at the time, but she was just trying to get me into porn as she got an agency fee from it, for getting me to sign up with her agency, but I thought she was just being really nice and helpful and I don't know, open-minded and stuff. And she was like, yeah, you can get paid to have sex with girls, sure. It was very enticing.
Waiting tables really sucks. And I got with a good girlfriend of mine and she had been doing webcam for a few years and I had never heard of it. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, I just take off my clothes and I masturbate or I talk to guys on webcam. I'm like, oh, I could probably do that. That's not too weird.
Doing webcam work, and then I had people asking me to do custom clips for them. So then I started doing that and shot some stuff with my husband, and that got popular and shot more stuff with him, and then met up with other producers and stuff and kind of just fell into it.
The way I got into porn was somehow I convinced an agent that they should take me on. If you're going to cold call an agent and try to get them to pick you up, don't tell them you're cold calling them. Find out the name of an agent that works there. Tell the person at the front line that person asked you to call them on this date and time, and they'll just send you right through.
I basically went on a trip. I live in Vegas, drove up to LA, found an agent. I'm not going to say who, but there were god-awful, horrible people.
and I pray for them every night. Jesus loves you, even though you're a fucking bully and you're mean and you're awful to people. But I found this agent, and then it just all went from there. But they're not my agent anymore, because I had to pay an arm and a leg to get out of that shit.
I was stripping in Oklahoma. Girls Gone Wild came through my town, and one of my girlfriends at the strip club was like, oh my God, Girls Gone Wild. Mind you, we were 18. She talked me into going to the bar, instantly came over and started talking to me, and they were trying to talk me into like getting naked on the bus and all of this for like a hat or a t-shirt or whatever. And I just straight up told them, I was like, I don't mind doing that, but you gotta pay me. They called their headquarters in Los Angeles, and they're on the phone with them for a good half an hour, and finally they're like, we'll give you $200. Like, still not gonna work. Bump it up. So they spend another hour on the phone, blah, 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 and they come back to me and they're like, okay, $600. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. And so I did my very first scene on a Girls Gone Wild bus in like Tulsa, Oklahoma, for $600.
I got into the porn business because my agent contacted me on a campsite. I actually canceled my trip twice, like a week before I was supposed to leave, because I didn't think it was for me. And I finally came out here, and I've loved it ever since.
I got into porn because I was doing webcam modeling for a little bit, like, masturbating on a live webcam. And I was just approached by somebody who worked for a company, and he basically just asked me if I had ever thought about shooting porn. And I was like, not really, but now I am that you mentioned it. And so I just like asked some questions, and basically was like, all right, fuck it. And then I flew out to Miami 2 weeks later and shot my first like 5 scenes.
Someone had contacted me that was a talent agent for porn, and I contacted them back, and I tried to make sure they were legit and everything. Everything was legit. He just didn't have any connections to really get me out there, so, and I didn't sign any paperwork. I wasn't signed with them, so I just kind of went on my own thing.
Well, I had thought about doing porn years ago, so I'm 23 now. I'm gonna go around 19. I was thinking about doing porn. I just like hit kind of like a moment in my life where I was like thinking about getting into stripping. Just a moment in your life where you're like, what the fuck am I doing? I had no way of going about it. I had no resources. I didn't know where to look. I didn't know who to hit up. Fast forward to this year, and I, watched the Netflix documentary Hot Girls Wanted. And that was like kind of an eye-opening thing to me. I personally liked the documentary. I think it's a stupid documentary, of course. Now that I'm in the business, it's completely different. Like, you can never watch a documentary and think you know it. You will not know it. There's so much to be learned. There's so many differences, but that's pretty much how I got started. I saw that and it was like, click.
I was originally submitting myself for Playboy. I was doing it all the wrong ways, by the way. I was taking those photos and loading them up on MySpace, and a agency contacted me on MySpace. Yeah, MySpace got me into porn.
I got into porn by going to a convention. It was back when it was Erotica LA here in LA. I went as a fan with my, at the time, boyfriend, because we were porn watchers and stuff, because I'm really fucking awesome. And I had a dress on and big boobs, and everyone kept coming up to me and asking to take pictures with me, and I'm like, that's kind of weird. And then it got the wheels turning, like, wait, people would jerk off to me? So, I did some research, and I'm like, okay, I'll dip my toe in, or I'll dip my clit in, and looked into it, and just started doing girl, and here I am, taking a bunch of wieners in all my holes.
When I was 18 years old in Texas, I started modeling, and I eventually got into nude and erotic art nude and fetish and bondage modeling. I got scouted on a fetish website, and I initially thought, hell no. And about 2 weeks later, I got really excited about it, and I decided to do it, and I jumped in, and I had no idea what to expect. I love working in porn. It's amazing. It's my favorite thing, and it was a passion that I didn't know I had.
I was a model for High Times and for Stone Girls, and I got recruited through them.
I got into porn by being bored one day. So it was my day off of work. I wasn't doing anything. I was watching TV, and when the commercials came on, I went on to my laptop and I was like checking emails and stuff like that. And then I go on to like a porn site and I'm like, maybe I could do porn to get some extra money. Because at the time I was working 3 jobs and I was living at home and I was in a crappy little town and I didn't really see myself going anywhere. So it was just like a bored, like, how do I make money moment type thing. And so I sent out a few emails to some like guys at Hustler, I don't know. It's just sent out emails to people and then they got back to me within like an hour. And so then they started sending me lists of like different agencies that I could like contact and everything. So then I contacted the agencies and then I decided one that I felt comfortable with and then I was out in California within a week. Like it's that easy.
I created a Twitter account to try to get more customers for my webcam, and a scout for an agency messaged me and was like, hey, you look like you'd be good in porn. Why don't you come down to LA and make some money? And I was like, wow, real sex instead of fucking my dildo all day? Yeah, that sounds like a good time. Let's try that.
I had a talent scout hit me up on Model Mayhem at first to do bikini modeling. And then a couple weeks into us talking about it, they were like, well, no, it's more or less porn. It's not bikini modeling. Like, they lured me in with all of this bullshit story. And then when I found out it was porn, I was like, no, I'm not fucking doing that. And I said no for like a month straight. And then finally I caved and I was like, well, if I do 1 or 2 scenes, there's so much porn out there, nobody's gonna find out anyways. Because I was young and naive and I never watched porn. I don't watch porn, I just shoot it. So I didn't know, and I had never heard of Bang Bros, and I had never heard of like the Haze Her thing. I was thinking, oh, these are so obscure. They're so small, nobody's ever gonna find out. Nope, everybody knew after my 3rd scene.
I had a few people who were in the business and they said, hey, maybe you should shoot. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. And then I was in love with a girl and she got engaged with a guy. And I said, okay, yeah, I'll start doing scenes. And that was my revenge. Like, that's how I dealt with it, by deciding to have sex with chicks for money.
I started off as a nude model and it wasn't the most lucrative thing for me. And I was like, you know what? I want to try porn. Kind of started with me doing just like an amateur blowjob video with a friend, and I showed it to another friend and she was like, yeah, you should totally do it. And I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking do it. So I did it.
In the strip club, dancing, and I was 18, and so like in the movies, like some guy approached me like, oh, hey, you know, you should do porn. And I'm like, okay, cool, where's your business card? And of course he didn't have one. And I'm one of the smarter girls. I'm like, okay, so what's your name so I can Google you? And I Googled him, couldn't find anything on him, but I'm like, scratch that. Well, how do I really get into porn? I think I put up like a profile on this website, like Sexy Jobs or something way back then. And then it went from there. Like an agent really reached out to me, contacted me from there, flew out to LA with my test. And I was out there for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, my first time around. And it was fun. I loved it. I like fucking, so.
I was sitting around at home, and I've always been a fan of porn, you know, watching it for years. And so I started following some of the girls on Twitter. And from then, I went to an AVN as a fan and actually took my first photo set.
I seen a lot of feature performances at the strip club I was dancing at in Florida. I don't know, I talked to someone a little bit about it, and she had told me some things about the industry, and I took that and kind of ran with it. Got in contact with an agency, went to LA, and I started that same month, so. And here I am, a year later.
Oh, like I was on tour with a band, and every time I would come through to LA, to Southern California, I started finding opportunities to do scenes, and that's how I did my first few.
Honestly, I was like on Craigslist and I was looking for like modeling gigs, and this guy just seen me and he was like, send me some pictures, I want to fly you out to LA, what'd you think about porn? I'm like, okay, well, I never did porn, I love to fuck, so it's like, why not? Let's do it for some money, you know?
I had an intern at a company I was working with who was in the industry, and I was getting ready to leave my job, and he said, do you want to try it? And I said, I watch a lot of porn. I jerk off a lot, I'll give it a go.
I got into porn after I had started nude modeling, so I didn't just, you know, jump in off the bat. I had had some experience with nudity and being naked in front of people. But one of my friends had decided that she wanted to do porn. She, of course, lied to me about it. But she came back alive. So I was like, okay, so clearly the industry isn't as scary as everyone tells me. And I like sex, and if I can make money off of this, then okay, cool, let's do it.